welcome to Conversation with a Father. I am forever grateful for your attention. Let's get into it. Most people walk into school every day thinking that it's a place to perform, to try to get the highest grade or a quality grade for your environment. A place to get labeled, like maybe you're an athlete on the college basketball team, or maybe you're a football player or on debate in high school. Or you might think it's just a place that you go to prove something. Maybe you want to get that degree, get that certificate, accomplish that goal. But school is just a place of education, a tool on your journey. It's not really a place that's supposed to define who you are. Today we're going to talk about school in that fashion, as a tool. But it's important that we first understand the user. Today I want to help you separate the pressures that come from that environment of school from the truths that you want to show from within you. So school can actually work for you instead of feeling like something that might be against you. So when I first mentioned school as a tool, let's talk about that in entirety. If school was a tool. In school, in class, regardless if you're in high school, middle school, college, the education from a bird's eye view, the education field is a commitment of your time and of your attention. That's the overall agreement when we talk about most schools. And so when we talk about those two aspects, our time and attention, when it comes to the time, it's just showing up. Like anybody who's been in any level of school knows that you have to show up. Now in college, it's a little more lenient if you show up or not, but you still need to be there in order to get the quality education, in order to even try. So that's the starting point. That's pretty self-explanatory. Showing up to your classes, whether you're in high school and you're skipping. Well, in high school, they take attendance. So in high school, they take attendance all the time. And so if you're showing up, it'll show in your attendance. That's why it's usually a push for most schools to have people in class, because that's a big part of it. The second part becomes a little more interesting, and that's just our attention. Now, when I talk about your attention, again, these are the two commitments that you have to have in order to essentially beat school, the education game. But when I talk about your attention, what does that really mean? Are you able to think about what your instructor is asking you to think about? Now, that can be a daunting task for some, but that's really the basis of your attention. Your instructor will present to you some type of information or inquiry, discuss that information and inquiry with you, and can you sit there and think about that with them? The other part of beating that is being able to complete those assignments that go with that thinking. So if you're able to, for any time frame, think about what your instructor is asking you to think about, and then complete it on that form called an assignment, that's pretty much the game. Now, if you want to be decent to good at the game, you have to do that consistently. Show up every day, or as much as you possibly can. When you're in the presence of your instructor, think about what they're asking you to think about. Engage with whatever the assignment is, whatever the agenda for that day is. And then when you get an assignment related to that day's thinking, complete it with your thoughts. That's really it. Your progress will show, your grades will go up, you'll be fine most of the time. The school game, it's not a hard game to beat. It's not a hard game to beat. Regardless of where you are, you can start implementing these type of ideas right now. You could be sitting at F's. Now, it's not going to fix it overnight. No, it takes consistency and time with it. But really, that's the game of school. That's the game of education. Can you show up? Can you be consistently showing up? And can you handle the task we ask you to handle? Now, turning it in on time is a whole different thing, but punctuality should be part of it. That should be part of what you just want to provide as a human. You just want to be punctual in general. But that's really it. School is not nothing else for real as far as the education. Now we're going to get into the other part of it. Because if we look back outside of the agreement of school and education, of time and attention, when we look at school on a general sense, school is more of a social community. While it is a place of education, the education is really just the curriculum provided and the behaviors that are there. Those are the only two things that you're really learning when we talk about school in general. Now, the curriculum part, that's what we already talked about. Being able to handle the curriculum part is showing up every day, thinking about what my instructor asked me to think about, and then providing that information on the corresponding assignment. Now, again, it's various levels to that. In college, you got to do a little bit more. It's not enough just to try your best, even though trying your best is generally the answer. But in high school, secondary school, generally trying your best is going to land you in that A, B, C type of range. But the other part of that, not even a but the other thing we find ourselves learning are behaviors. Because in this social community of students and teachers, instructors, it's a bunch of things that go on that we learn and that we feel that has nothing tied to the curriculum at all. So you might be wondering, how might we learn behaviors at school? Well, behaviors are generally behaviors come from the pressures that are around you. So dictating the environment kind of dictate the behavior. You might be at home and exhibit some type of behaviors that you like to do, chill, kind of relax, laid back. Maybe you have a lot of activities at home, and so when you get at home, you everywhere. But that behavior doesn't show up the same when you are at school. That behavior might not show up the same when you are at practice or at an event or at church. So the environment adds a layer of pressures to us that kind of conforms our behaviors. And if we're not aware of that, we'll go to these places and those pressures will begin to shape us in a way that when we go somewhere else, we might not like. Or when we're somewhere else, it might not be as accepted. So I think it's important that before you even go to school, you kind of know before you go. You kind of have a sense about yourself of who I am before I even show up there. I already know these are things that I am going to do. These are things that I am. And how do we begin to know that? Well, since we're talking about the different environments, let's compare school and home. When you're at home, your parents, your loved ones, your guardians, they are a layer of pressure in that certain environment. But because they have a certain amount of care and love for you and support for you, that pressure is going to be a little more aligned with who you are. They're a little more aware of who you are on a bigger level, on an intimate level. They know your weirdness. They know your quirks. But when you go to school, now it's everybody taking those behaviors or those people from their homes. All those behaviors and ideas are all collected in the building. And it creates a level of pressure that comes with your school. Now, sometimes that pressure is beautiful. Sometimes the school is aligned in a way where everybody is thinking positive ideas to help each other, to build a great community, to see results that makes people happy, that inspires people. But it's places that sometimes the school doesn't have that structure of behaviors or that pressure of an environment that brings forth those type of results. And so we have to be aware of who we are before we go there. That's why I say you got to know before you go. You have to know before you go. The two type of pressures that show up are pretty basic. You probably could guess what they are. They're external pressures, and then they're internal pressures. Now, that's a pretty basic definition. Pretty basic. You know, you have the pressures from your environment, which are your external pressures. And then you have pressures from inside of you that you want to enact on your environment, which are your internal pressures. Now, your external pressures, like I said, they're based on different information. So since we're talking about school, we'll use school. The external pressures are based on things like your title. Did you go to your high school with great grades? So you might be looked at as a really smart kid. Did you go to college with great grades? So you might be looked at as a scholar, as someone who's going to excel in that environment. Were you an athlete? Because a lot of kids are athletes and play different sports. So you can go into an environment with all these titles, but these titles are just external pressures on you. Another external pressure that comes up is the results. So like I said, with the title of being a great student, that's based on the results of your grade cards. That's why someone gave you the title of a great student. That's an external pressure. It's not coming from within you. It's something that someone is placing on you because of your results. Or maybe it's the expectations. Expectations are huge because they come from everywhere. We all got expectations to do well in school. No one shows up like, man, I'm gonna mess up today. Now you might have that idea in your mind, but really the point of showing up is to do well. And these expectations come from the teachers, come from other students, come from family and friends. They come from anywhere. So I like to break down those the external pressures as our titles, our results, and our expectations. Now, when it comes to the internal pressures, those are the pressures you're trying to push out onto people. Those are your expressions to the reality in the world around you. Those are the ways you want to be in front of people. Those are the ways you want to be when you're alone. When you show up to school, there's a way you want to be. Those are your internal pressures. Those come from things like your sovereignty, your sovereign rules. Your sovereign rules are the rules you use to govern yourself. In a simple form, you wake up with ideas of, this is who I am and this is who I'm going to present. Some of your sovereign rules are based on like things you wear. I won't wear that because I am me. I will wear that because I am me. Those are some of the basic sovereign rules. But those deeper internal pressures are, I won't do that because I'm a leader. I won't do that because I'm honest. I respect myself, so I can't do that with you. That's an internal pressure that you have to know before you get there. You have to be aware of that before you even put into a situation of falling victim to dishonesty. A couple of our other internal pressures are inspirations, those things that motivate you. You show up to school to do a great job because of what? When you get that A, it feels some type of way. When you get that touchdown, it feels some type of way for you. Yeah, you get the accolades out loud and the support from around, but some part of you feels some type of way with it. And these are the things that I call your truths. These are the identity pieces that are a part of you that you knew was a part of you before you ever went to school. And these parts of you generally show up everywhere. It's not just a part of you to show up at school. It's not just a part of you to show up at church. It's not just a part of you to show up at home. These internal pressures are the parts of you that show up just about everywhere, or at least try to. So here's the question. Are the ideas you're carrying on a daily basis, especially when you're in the school environment, are they coming from your internal pressures? Or are they coming from your external pressures? Because our job as people, we're just trying to find that balance. And so are more of your ideas coming from the external pressures of other people, the peer pressure, the teacher pressure, the environment pressure, the campus pressure, the pressure to assimilate with other people's ideas and behaviors? Or are we allowing the pressures of our truth to show up in all the things that we do in this environment? I like to separate our external pressures from our internal pressures. With the titles, so here's the question. Are you creating your ideas about you from your internal pressures or the external pressures of the environment? More than likely, it's probably both. Let's take a little bit deeper look into it. We generally base our decisions from both of these lenses. The lenses of the external pressures, which we can call our labels. Those labels So here's the question. Are the ideas you're carrying coming from your internal pressures, or are they coming from your external pressures? To be honest with you, it's probably a mix of both. We're generally making our daily decisions from both of these lenses. Either the external pressures, which I'm gonna start calling our labels, or we're making these decisions from our internal pressures, which, if we use them appropriately, can turn into our gifts. So let's define what I mean by labels and gifts. But when I look at the word label, by dictionary.com's definition, it's just an item used to identify something or someone. And I would agree with that. When I look at the labels, it is how someone outside of you classifies who you are. It helps them understand what they observe. So now when they tell you their label, I can be aware that, okay, that's how you understand who I am. I don't have to take that as that's who I am. Those are two different things. Let's take a mayonnaise jar. If you had a mayonnaise jar and you put pickles across it, the label doesn't define the mayonnaise that's inside. It would just confuse people when they go inside and say, this ain't pickles. But the same is true if you take a mayonnaise jar, take all the mayonnaise out, fill it with pickles. Now the label is wrong because you changed what was inside of it. And that's the difference between labels. Our labels are just there for other people. Whether true or not, we don't really have to decide. Now, there are labels that people can try to place on us that we have, hard lines and say, nah, G, don't even say that one. That one don't even need to be spoken. Don't even bring that one out your lips. But still, I can create a distance from myself, understanding that these labels are just for other people. And that goes for all of them. The titles, yeah, you the starting quarterback. Good job. But it's just a title for other people. You still got to show up and do all that work. You still got to show up every day and prepare. It doesn't change that. You were doing that before they called you the starting quarterback. It's just a label. When it comes to the results, you did all you could on that project. You literally did your very best. You thought about what the teacher asked you thought about, and you put your best answers down. And it was a D. Cool. On the next assignment, do your very best again. Because in anything you do in life, you want to be able to consider your best. And let the results be what they are. Because at some point, you are going to be doing your best at stuff that produce great results. So practice doing your best. We can't be so bothered by the labels, because the labels are a result of the environment. In all situations. Now, when we're at home, the environment is more of hopefully a supporting vibe, a loving feel. So those labels are closer aligned to the truth. But when we in places like school, when we walk around the campus, nah, man, I gotta bring who I am out there. I can't allow the labels to define who I am. This is just a place, an environment for a time. There's a story that you might have heard, and I'm going to share it with you. It's a biblical story, but I'm going to share how I see it. There was a king, and this king gave talents to 3 men. He was going on a long trip, and he was trusting these 3 men to take these talents that he was giving them and to utilize them. The first man, he gave 5 talents, and the second man, he gave 3. And to the third man, he gave just one. So the king went away for a time, and on his return, he called for the 3 men in which he gave talents. The man who he gave 5 said, "King, you gave me 5 talents. I present you with a gift of 5 more." He had taken those 5 talents, invested some time into it in the market, and he was able to give the king a gift of 5 more talents. The man with 3 talents, he also took his 3, went to the market, and was able to present the king with a gift of 3 more talents. Now, the gentleman with the 1 talent, he told the king, "I've only had 1 talent, so I hid it to preserve it. I didn't trust it in the market. I was scared. But I bring back that talent, the one that you gave me, just as you gave it to me." And the king did not approve. He approved of the gifts from the man with the 5. He approved of the gifts from the man with the 3. But he did not approve of the man with the 1, simply for the fact that the king gave him the talent to invest in him, and he couldn't even invest in himself. And so why do I share that story? Because when I say gifts, I believe everybody watching has them, or can at least develop them. When I use the term gifts, I'll break it down like this. Your gifts are basically just your interests, things that you find interesting. You take that interest and you invest time into it, and it becomes a talent. And if you take that talent and develop it over time, it can be considered a gift. So I believe that everybody has that ability. You yourself can write down your interests, things that you're interested in, and see how much time you're giving them. And if you're giving them enough time, it'll become a talent. That's just the formula. And if you develop that talent over a long stretch of time, or even a quick stretch of time, it can turn into a gift to someone. And you see this play out in everybody's life. If you think about the basketball player that you love, or the football player that you love, if you think about anyone who has accomplished a level of accomplishment in your mind, they took an interest, turned it into a talent, and now to you it's a gift. You are capable of the same thing. But that's the internal truths. Those are the things that's coming from you to present to others. So the question becomes, what labels have you accepted that are keeping you from exploring and developing your gifts? What environmental labels have you accepted to stop you exploring for who you can be and share with everybody else? Because that person is probably the most important. But maybe you have no idea of, like, bro, I don't know how to get even close to knowing what my interests are. I got you. I got you. Developing your interests requires time alone. And not like some depressing, sit in the corner, I'm all by myself, no one's my friend. But it requires an intentional solitude. It requires an intention to sit alone and to think. Outside of the games that are around me, outside of the environment that I'm in, outside of the situations, what do I want? What do I see for myself? What am I striving for? If everything changed, what do I want people to remember about me? What am I standing on? These are all ideas that require no one else but yourself to answer, but it definitely requires you to be intentional about answering them. Because if you're not intentional, those answers won't show up. And those answers are important. And I know what you're thinking. Sitting alone, man, that's boring. Sitting by myself, man, what am I gonna do? I say this to you. When you're sitting alone, only one person can show up. And that's you. And if that person is boring, why? Maybe that person is too good. Maybe that person has consumed themselves with the labels of their environment. And when that environment gone, they have nobody to share what the labels say. And that could be boring. That could be a tough place. But all it takes is a question. All it takes is an inquiry to yourself. Why? And sit and see what answers show up. See, the truth of the matter is, our internal truths are connected to a Wi-Fi service that we can't see. Heck, we can't see the Wi-Fi that we're using right now to watch me on YouTube. But there's a different connection. And if you take the time to sit with the question, answers will just start to come up. And you're not really sure where they come from, but just see. Don't be afraid to explore you. Because in my eyes, you're the most important person to your world. And I think that's a pretty big deal. And since you're the most important person, you should know everything there is to know about. How long do I have to sit? Not long. Just be intentional. 15 minutes. Heck, if you're watching me this long, that's longer than this. But it's important to be intentional. Maybe the person that shows up is charismatic and confident. Still ask why. Is it a part of who you just want to be? I hope so. Because confidence is key. But no, have an assurance. I said in the beginning that school is just a tool. It's just a place. If it's in your path to use that tool for a long period of time or a short period of time, it's still just that. Don't let the tool define the user. And you're the user. Have a definition for yourself. If you don't know how to do this stuff on a practical sense, if you're one of those people like, man, he kind of said something, an idea kind of jumped and sparked in your head. Cool. Now these strategies, it doesn't require a huddle of a group. Now accountability, good counsel, having good people around you is always a good thing. But just like anything, you're the star of your own movie. Know that character well and play it exactly how you script it out. But we got to start to write the script. So it's like a buddy system. These strategies are just a few techniques. Like, this is not the end all be all. You might have your own strategies that is working out beautifully. Don't stop, keep running. But if you don't, these are a couple of techniques that you can use to help you develop help you develop that list of truths that you're going to take to every environment and let people know, this is me. This is who I am. Now I'm going to use this environment for school. Hey, if I'm 6'5", 260 and I can run like a deer, go ahead and go play tight end and go to college for free or get paid. Use the tool, but know who you are with the tool. You are beyond the tool and all its metrics of measuring you. You are beyond all of that. Start to discover it. 2 things, easy peasy, 2 things. I say it's easy because I've been doing it for a while. But the 2 things are that I suggest more than anything, especially to kiddos or young adults. Just anybody younger than me is a kiddo. No offense. I suggest journaling and meditation. Now, journaling usually gets kickback because no one likes to write. And that's fine, I get it. But there is a special intimacy in writing that is a communion with you. Even if you're just listening to me and an idea jump in your head, or you're sitting alone and the ideas that you write down jump in your head, it's all coming from you. It might have been something you heard. It might have been something you read. It might have been something you saw. But the writer is you. The idea generator that is bringing these ideas into form on paper is you. And there's an accountability about that. There's a discipline and awareness that comes with discovering who you are when you do it. And now it won't happen after you write 3 sentences, but it might. But I think it's a practice that everyone should practice. Whether that's a diary, whether you keep it secret, or it's a journal that you just jot stuff down in. I think it's important on discovering who you are so that you can show up to these environments, and these environments can't define who you are. And then meditation. Meditation is essentially sitting alone and seeing what version of yourself shows up. And experiencing that version. Now, hopefully you discover that the version that shows up is a choice made by you as well. Yes, circumstances are around you. Yes, situations are situations. Yeah, boo-boo broke your heart. Oh, yeah, it happened. Yeah, you tore that knee. Speedy recovery to you. But we still get to decide. I can decide if that torn knee is going to kill my spirits of recovery, or if it's going to boost me to fight even harder for the goals that I have. I can decide if boo-boo breaking my heart is going to lead me to 3 months of depression and not talking to people. Or I can decide that maybe that's what's best. If the tree can lose 1,000 leaves and not shed a tear, maybe I can move on from this one person that I cherished a lot. It's your decision. It's your choice. You have full control. But it requires your intention. And your intention is just attention that you give to yourself. Think about what you're thinking about. Write it down. Get it out your head. It's easier on paper. And then you know what you want to share and what you don't want to share. Why is this so important? Well, it's important to show up to school, home, and work, or any other environment, having a confidence, awareness of who you are. And to strengthen those beliefs intentionally with work, because that is what will lead to a fulfilling achievement. Not knowing who you are and achieving is a hollow achievement, because you know your achievement is just a result. But if you know who you are through those achievements, you know why the result happened for you. Your why is important to everything you will do. A lot of you, that's why school is so hard. You haven't discovered a why to be there. And everybody else tells you their whys, but it don't make sense in your brain. Like, it's not computing. And it's not that you slow or can't understand. You don't see how any of this information plays out to your benefit. You don't see how any of this curriculum is going to help you. You don't see how you need this tool. And while you're going through this and using this tool, I encourage you to seek what is in here. So when that tool goes away, you know exactly where to go next. You might be in high school, and so you can't just drop out. The external pressures of the family and the external pressures of the school, and maybe it's on your own internal pressures of what you want to achieve, aligns with finishing. So finish. Finish with the best marks you can. Do your best in everything. But you know your why doesn't align with this tool. And making that why, I want your why to be strong. And I want it to be rooted in love and genuine authenticity so that you can share it with everybody. But it starts with identifying what's inside your jar. Not the labels people say, but what's really in there. There's a strength inside of you that might just change the world you live in. And I am 1,000% rooting for you. So what are some truths about yourself that you are willing to intentionally explore? Share any ideas that were sparked while listening in the comments. And if it sparked an idea, at least write the idea down and share it with a friend. I get it. Everybody's not going to want to comment. But if while listening to this, something popped in your brain that was like, or you had that weird exhale like, those things happen, just jot it down. Share it with a friend. I was listening to this goofy guy and he said this goofy thing and this was what I thought. Boom. Easy peasy. And if you think this goofy guy makes sense to somebody else, share it with them. It's all love always. So I hope you have an understanding